So at Facebook, the joy of it is that there are a lot of bikes available, and they're various colors and sizes and all that. But it's the fact that they're ubiquitous and everywhere that really gets people on board, rather than this particular bike is awesome.
Right. And when you say ubiquitous everywhere, I imagine, because I don't work at Facebook or one of these places that has this, but I imagine that if I stepped outside in my workplace or my live space place or wherever it was, and I was greeted by a ready bike option that was available to me, and that I presumably could leave at the end point of this trip, that it would become a natural practice that was not part of my practice before. Whereas if it was just the case that, well, there's a bike available if you go around the corner and behind the place, and there's a bike there for you, either because you put it there or because somebody else had for you, it doesn't have that same power of normative behavior.
Right, yeah. So here's what we've learned. If you make the bikes available, people will use them.
Mm-hmm.
When people use them, they'll be happier, they'll get there faster,
Mm-hmm.
they'll feel better, it's
Mm-hmm.
a great break in the day,
Mm-hmm.
And they'll keep using them.
So it changes them.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can see it. You don't need a lot of data. You can just go, wow, here are 5 people riding along, smiling, they're animated, they're talking, and they're zipping to where they're going. And as a company, there's no other way we could have provided them with this mobility.
Right.
That would have done all these things at the same time.
So say more about that, because what you've just said is that the bike is actually providing multiple functions. It starts with, in this example we're using, intra-campus mobility.
Correct.
But it doesn't stop there. Say all the functions that it's achieving.
So there's a certain networking aspect you get when you bring people together for whatever reason. So, and we usually think of that as sitting around a table in a room, maybe at lunch. But if you put people on bikes, it turns out that they'll yammer the whole time. So if you put programmers on bikes, they will start talking coding, and removed from all of the distractions and actually moving around, they'll have really highly efficient discussions while moving their bodies and getting their brains engaged. And there have been lots of studies to show this is a really great way to have people have more effective meetings, is walking meetings. Well, bike
Right.
riding meetings are maybe even better.
Right, so it isn't just biking to the meeting, it's biking in the meeting.
That's right.
Cool.
So that's just one example. Obviously they get there faster. They have the mobility to decide, well, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to go the long way, I'll get a little exercise. I'm going to combine various trips. I'm going to go to an office meeting, then I'm going to go to the post office, then I'm going to go to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
All those things together.
Because once they have that bike, they're not confined to the campus.
Right.
They have to return it ultimately, but they can achieve other things while they're on that bike and do it quickly.
Yep, so it becomes a very important work tool that sort of smooths over a lot of things that previously were kind of herky-jerky during the day.
Right. So the bike is operating in a system, and it's sort of changing the system as it's being used within that system. Are there any particular thoughts you have about either the effect of the bike on the system beyond all the ones you've already described, or any effects of the system on this biking solution? Are there obstacles that the system imposes on this working? Are there obstacles removed by this this practice working? What do you think?
That's a great question. So it turns out that what's interesting about working on bicycles inside the corporate or large organization space like universities is that they own their territory more than a city does. So we tend to think of bicycles as transportation, and transportation belongs to big planning departments. So we think of bicycles in the city of Paris, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But a company can say, oh, we're going to lay a bicycle ecosystem over our campus or our zone or our area, and whether they're Apple or Williams-Sonoma, they can say, we're going to set up this ecosystem and change the rules in here So it's going to be bicycles primary, and we're going to really facilitate bicycles as the way to get around without necessarily hampering the others. Once they've done that, then the system quickly starts to determine what the weak points are, and it's really easy if you're paying any attention to go, oh, we need a little more parking here, a few more bikes here, we should put a sign here, and companies have the ability to do that quickly. Tech companies have a habit of doing things quickly based on data that they're collecting in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So because bicycle infrastructure, bicycle decision making doesn't have long lead times, nothing about it's really highly technical, it turns out that it's much more like software. We can tweak a little bit. We can say, oh, if we had a few more small bikes over here,
Right.
if we facilitated this kind of bike use over here, if we had some classes about this kind of bike riding,
Right.
then we could get the next iteration sort of like software.
You can do lots of experiments relatively quickly and
Right.
at not great expense and get data and modify the system.
Right, and on the corporate level, no bicycle thing is expensive. I mean, everything about bicycles is inexpensive, and this sort of tweaking in the software realm is really normal, and people are used to, oh, yeah, I made a comment, and then someone made a change based on my comment.
Right, right.